Well, welcome back to Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. I'm Julie Grant. As we continue on that verdict watch in Brunswick, Georgia, we have a special guest joining us on the program this afternoon, one of the attorneys involved in the case. Kevin Gough, the attorney who represents William Roddie Bryan, is joining us now live outside of the courthouse. Mr. Gough, thank you so much for your time on this very important day. My first question for you is, how are you feeling right now?
Tired, exhausted. It's been a long month, 5 or 6 weeks I've lost track, but we're almost there. We've got a jury out and they're deliberating, and certainly I don't want to say anything that could impact that process. I certainly hope our elected officials, from the local ones all the way up to the very top, will likewise reserve making any comments that might influence a jury one way or another. We've all worked so hard for this process, and we would be ashamed for anything to spoil it now. Mm-hmm. So what can I tell you with that understanding?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have lots of questions for you, and answer as you're able to answer. Let's start with one question that I've had in my mind since I saw you rest without putting on a defense. And that is why, and I want to preface that question by saying that we understand that your client doesn't have to put on a shred of evidence. He is presumed innocent, cloaked in the presumption of innocence. I just thought, knowing how passionate you have been about this case and seeing so many of the arguments you and your colleagues have put forth, I was expecting to see a defense. Can you shed some light as to why no witnesses were called, please?
Well, we did present a defense. You'll recall that Roddie Bryan provided the video that is at the heart of this case. He provided the night owl videos. That's technically our evidence because it shows his good faith. That was our evidence. And a lot of the evidence the state presented was actually exculpatory evidence for Mr. Bryan. So although the exhibits may have state numbers on them, they are, practically speaking, a lot of those are defense exhibits. And they covered a lot of the ground that needed to be covered. So we're comfortable with the case that's been presented to the jury.
Mr. Gough, I know you've always been comfortable from day one having this case tried in Glynn County, where the incident in question occurred. I know hindsight is 20/20, but want to ask you now that the evidence is all in and the case is coming to a close, is there any regret in not pushing for a change of venue?
No, ma'am. This is the place the case needed to be tried. We've had some concerns and some questions. We've raised them by motion through the proceedings. But the event took place here. You've got a family here that wants their day in court. You've got 3 other families. They want their day in court. That needs to happen here in Brunswick, Georgia. We have a wonderful court system. We have a wonderful sheriff. We have great people in law enforcement, great people in this community. And I think that you've seen that they've all been working very, very hard to ensure that we could have this trial in this town.
Tell us, is there a reason you kept resurrecting the issue of not wanting to have black pastors sitting in the courtroom gallery when I know we both know, anyone who practices law knows, there's no legal basis for exclusion in the courtroom. In America, courtrooms are public. So is there a reason why you continue to resurrect that issue day after day?
Well, I'll say this, that I'm not going to start having that discussion outside the courtroom before a jury returns its verdict. I don't think that would be appropriate. And I would beg to differ with you. I think if you go back and you look at the law, read it a bit more carefully, you'll see that the motions filed have ample legal basis. And I'm sorry that some people are reading more into these things than there are. Sometimes I feel I get far too much credit, but we're comfortable with the legal basis for the motions that were filed.
What is the legal basis
that,
you're saying that there is? Because in America, courtrooms are public. What is the legal basis you're citing?
Well, there's a lot more to it than that. But again, with the jury out deliberating, I'm not going to get into that stuff. We've made our arguments in court. We filed our pleadings in court. The court's made its rulings. The jury is out. And until the jury returns its verdict, I'm not going to say anything outside that courtroom that could in any way impact that process. And I know you respect that. And if you want to take up this conversation perhaps again, I'd be more than happy to have it. But I'm not going to do it while an unsequestered jury is deliberating on this case, and I'm sure you can appreciate why.
Sure. Well, let's talk about that, because that actually is a question I have for you. Why wouldn't you want them to be sequestered, especially in light of everything that you raised in the courtroom about your concerns about so many people gathering outside? Yesterday, you said it had become a literal mob, not a figurative mob. Those were your words when you resurrected your 8th motion for mistrial just on that issue.
Well, I'm not going to discuss the security precautions that have been taken by the court. I don't think it would be appropriate. There's been a lot of work done to ensure, if not the anonymity of the jurors, their privacy. It's hard for me to respond to that right now.
Why you wouldn't want the jury sequestered? You think you can't say?
Whether the jury needs to be sequestered depends in part on what arrangements have been made as we speak today with respect to the jurors, and I'm not going to discuss those. Not that I am necessarily privy to all that, but even if I was, I just don't think that we need to be having that conversation right now while the jury's deliberating. And I'm sorry if that's frustrating, but that's just the best I can tell you right now.
I understand. We'll respect that. Let's move on to something else that has a lot of people talking, as I'm sure you know, and that was your colleague in this case, Laura Hogue, who represents Gregory McMichael. She made the comment yesterday in closing arguments about Ahmaud Arbery's toenails being long and dirty. And it got a lot of discussion after the court proceedings had concluded for the day. Ahmaud Arbery's mother, very upset, feeling that it was a disparaging comment. We're curious, what did you think of the comment, please?
Well, what I think is that Laura Hogue is an excellent attorney. She's provided incredible representation for Greg McMichael. And I'm not in her shoes. I'm representing a different client. So it's hard for me to speak to what she did. On behalf of Mr. Bryan, I probably would have not commented on that. But then again, I represent a different client, a different situation. And all I can tell you is she is a fine lawyer. She has a great legal mind, and everything she does, I feel pretty confident in saying it's thought out. Sometimes difficult things need to be raised. If the lawyers are afraid to talk about it, how can you expect the jury to do that? And I don't know if that impacted her thought process. I don't know what the thought process was, but I would be reluctant personally to be critical of such a fine attorney without knowing exactly what the thought process was. But you also got to remember now, I'm sitting behind the other attorneys as they're giving their closing arguments, and I can't see what y'all are seeing during the trial. You also have to remember, this is a challenging case for the lawyers because of the masks that the jurors are wearing in the courtroom. We can't get the usual feedback. And, I think certainly for you and some of the other folks at Court TV, you can appreciate the importance of having that feedback. So without the benefit of that, sometimes it's harder to assess or predict what's going on with the jury. So, I don't know what impact that had on the arguments that were or were not made by the other lawyers yesterday. Understood.
Tell me, we know one of the very highly contested issues outside the presence of the jury was the admissibility of a statement that Travis McMichael allegedly made after Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed using an expletive and then the N-word. And we know ultimately, because of a very famous case in the United States of America, the Bruton case, if your client, Roddie Bryan, was not going to take the stand and be available for cross-examination on that because he's the only person who would be able to relate that, it can't come in against Travis McMichael, even though it's his statement. And we unpack this a lot here on the show, Mr. Gough. And, I am wondering about something that Travis McMichael's attorneys shared with Court TV just a few days ago when they came on our programming, and they said it's their belief that your client never heard that statement made by Travis, that he was just saying this to investigators in order to procure a deal for himself. Your response to that, please.
Well, my response to that, and I know you're going to be frustrated with me, is that the jury is out in this case, and I'm not going to discuss the evidence that was presented in front of them, nor am I going to discuss evidence that was not presented in front of them until they've returned a verdict. Yeah, there's a lot I could say in response to all that, but I just don't think this is the time or the place. Maybe we'll have this conversation again later.
Okay. And
okay, because I don't want to do or say anything here that could negatively impact the co-defendants. They also have a right to a fair trial.
Certainly understand that. We respect that. And we, of course, would invite you back on any time you are available for us to talk about some of these issues that you just cannot legally discuss today because of the situation. And right now with this jury out deliberating for an hour and 51 minutes. So with that, just want to say thank you very much for your time, Mr. Gough. Thank you for making time for us. And we'll let you head back into the courtroom and hopefully get a chance to speak with you again soon.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
Take good care. You as well. And with that, we're going to squeeze in a quick break here on Court TV Live. When we come back, we have more analysis for you and reporting on what is happening in Brunswick as this trial is coming to a close. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice.